Hello, my name is Natalie Pollard. I am a junior public relations major at Virginia Tech. This is my final project for my Intro to Computational Thinking class. I decided to do my final project on the NFL because it was supplied to us as a data set. I have a huge passion for football and in sports in general, so I had a lot of interest behind selecting this topic. Before I go into the details of my final project, I just want to kind of briefly explain the two major social impacts within the NFL. There are the stakeholders and the league that have different impacts. For the stakeholders, they pretty much view football as a social and a cultural event. And this goes around the country where people will come together to cheer for their favorite teams. And for the league, it reaches out to various communities and charities to donate their time and money to help important causes. As I mentioned before, there are stakeholders within the NFL. I listed a few here as football fans, advertisers, players, coaches, staff, the media, and season ticket holders. There's also a few other stakeholders which I did not list, but these are the main general ones. And also, there are conflicts and implications within the NFL that really affect the social impacts. These include scandals and over-competitiveness. The data that I used for this project were mainly two different websites. The first one listed was the data of the different Super Bowls, and the second is a list of the NFL teams with the most Super Bowl wins. And analyzing those two websites really helped me with my project. Alright, so now really getting into the heart of the entire project. I had four main questions that I wanted answered. Number one, who are the top three NFL teams with the most Super Bowl wins? 2, how many total wins do those teams have in their entire history while playing at home and away? 3, are there any correlations between the amounts of wins when they play at home and away? And 4, is there a correlation between the amounts of home and away wins during their winning Super Bowl season? With the help of the two websites that I listed earlier, these are the top 3 NFL teams with the most Super Bowl wins. And they are the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys, and then the San Francisco 49ers. Alright, so now that we know the top 3 teams, let's take a look at each of them and analyze their wins based on home and away. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, in total, they have 292 home wins and 197 away wins. For the Dallas Cowboys, they have 275 home wins with 213 away wins.
And lastly, for the San Francisco 49ers, they have 261 wins at home and 204 wins at away. So according to the last 3 graphs, we can assume that there is a correlation between home and away wins, that each team has more home wins than away. And that can be from a particular factor that we don't know, but we can say that the 3 teams play better when they're at home.
Alright, so now let's look at another question and see if there's a correlation between the amount of home versus away wins during a season when each of those teams won a Super Bowl. Here is a graph of the Super Bowl winning seasons from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this graph represents their home wins of that season. And this graph is a representation of away wins from the Steelers in each year that they won a Super Bowl. And here's a graph that I made on Excel, and it basically just shows that there is no correlation between the Steelers when they play at home and away because they are very different in each season. Now here is the graph for the Cowboys and for their home wins in each of their winning Super Bowl seasons. And now here is the other graph of their away wins. Now for the Cowboys, we can assume that there is a correlation because by the graph, you can tell, besides 1992 and 93, that there have been more home wins than away wins during their Super Bowl winning seasons. Alright, and for the 49ers, here is their graph for the home wins in each of their winning Super Bowl seasons. And here is the graph of their away wins. Now for the 49ers, we can assume that there is another correlation. Besides the 1981 and 82 year and the 84 and 85, there are more away wins during a Super Bowl winning season than home wins. So to just sum it up, we can say from looking at the graphs from each team that the Steelers had no correlation between the home and away wins that they had in their winning Super Bowl seasons. And for the Cowboys, we can say that there are more home wins. And for the 49ers, we could say that there is a correlation of more away wins. Now, unfortunately, there are some limitations within this set of data. We don't know the factors that could have caused the correlations within the wins of each team. We don't know anything about the players from the data, just the games. The players might have had effect on the wins. They could have been an unknown factor for all we know. And each correlation is different for each team, so that doesn't really allow us to analyze it on a grand scale for an overall pattern of their seasons when they won a Super Bowl. So in class we learned that an abstraction is a kind of general way to simplify a complex set of data. And for the NFL, with the data that I was given, I tried to abstract it into simpler ways of analyzing to answer my questions. And I came up with records of the score for their home and away wins, their season and year of when they were playing in the Super Bowl, and the location of the games, whether it was home or away. So when I was organizing my data for this project, I organized it into a list of a dictionary, which in this case it represented a game, and within that dictionary there are 5 different keys, and each key is either an integer or a string. So to kind of just sum up my entire project with the 4 questions that I started off with earlier, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the San Francisco 49ers are the top 3 NFL teams with the most Super Bowl wins. And overall, in general, in their entire history of a team, the Steelers have 292 home wins with 197 away, Cowboys with 275 home wins and 213 away, and the 49ers have 261 home wins and 204 away wins. Overall, there was a correlation for each team. They had more wins at home, and unfortunately we didn't really have a factor that could have explained why, but there was a correlation. And unfortunately, as well, there were no correlations between the home and away wins between the 3 teams during their winning Super Bowl seasons, but each team besides the Steelers did have a correlation. Okay, and that's the end to my final project for my Introduction to Computational Thinking class. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this.